Dr. Kamalesh Sarkar, Director, ICMR, National Institute of Occupational Health, will be joining us. So kindly, Dr. Saptoshi Chatterjee, please call upon them. Thank you, sir. So we are going to start the panel discussion on building bioinnovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem in higher educational institutes. So the entire session will be moderated by Dr. Saptoshi Chatterjee. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, my dear students and the panelists. And today we are fortunate to have very strong and enlightening panelists, including Professor Keka Sarkar from University of Kalyani, Dr. Piali Boshak from Jadavpur University, Dr. Kamalesh Sarkar from ICMR NIOH, and Professor Rudra Prasad Shaha from Adamas University. So my role would be just as a facilitator and maybe a question bank, because it would be my privilege to ask questions and get insights for myself, my colleagues, and the students on innovation and entrepreneurship, especially in the domain of life sciences. So I would like to start with Professor Dr. Keka Sarkar, and I would like to take some views of Madam on how can the bio-innovation culture be translated into students. So, ma'am, I hope the question is audible to you, and we would be fortunate to get the answers from you.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It is my privilege to be a part of distinguished panel, and Honorable Vice Chancellor and all distinguished members, students. I'm virtually present there. Actually, on the queries, that is first, it is very important queries. First, we have to know what is the importance of being entrepreneur or entrepreneurship. It is a very crucial element for each country that aims to be competitive and developed within knowledge-based world economy. And it may also be expressed as the mindset and process to create and develop economic activity by blending risk-taking, creativity, and innovation with sound management within a new or an existing system. And when it would be related to the life science, we have already known that our government of India has already been started different type of activities through startup, Innovative India, and different type of such type of activities for incorporate the life science and to produce a number of activities through it. Actually, most of our institution, we have made this work just like a cognitive work, that is a regular work. And hardly our schools or colleges asked students for invention or have any organized structural curriculum where invention is one of the part. So invention is very much important, and through innovation, we only go for the problem that has already been increased.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. To carry forward the discussion, I would now request Dr. Piali Boshak to enlighten us that she comes from Jadavpur University, which is known for a very vibrant and dynamic innovation culture. So, Madam, how do you evaluate the culture of innovation in the campus that can help our students to work for innovation rather than just study for marks? Your comments, ma'am.
Actually, there are already some students, they are always in their mind innovative. Okay, you will find in your class that few people ask more questions. It is not bad thing. It is their innovative mind. So you have to encourage them, and you have to ask other also if whether they have any problem or anything to ask. This is the first step. And if you just want to be want to include more students, so you need to ask them for some projects, small projects. Okay. These small projects actually let them do during their school and college curriculum and course. What they do, they study what according to syllabus to get marks. It is the main idea, main motto. So what ultimately we get, there are students of different category. They may have qualified the national level exams also. But what we find, there are students who have qualified national level of exam, then also their innovative mind is not so strong. Because they, during qualification also, they gone through some already designated path. They know to go through that, they will achieve that. So you have to encourage them for something which is not known to in their syllabus or not present in book or vividly, so that they can cultivate their innovative mind. So you have to encourage them for multidimensional thinking. We generally, in our syllabus, in our study, what we do? We are single-minded, not the multidimensional thinking. Our mind is set to do something to get best mark. So now if you want to include innovation, you have to encourage them to the multidimensional thinking, to actually approach one subject in a different way. That is the first step, I think. So, and that you can achieve through small projects, small topics. Let them speak. They may initially speak, may not be of relevance, but whenever they find the interest, that you will find it through their corresponding presentation. That if they find interest, they will give presentation or they will give their talk, which is better and than someone working in that field for few years. They can do that. That what I have observed during my tenure in Jadavpur University, especially when I was just assisting my students, master degree students, for their project work. So that's all I think the way.
Thank you, ma'am. So I think the message was quite clear for students that you need to ask questions, which you seldom do. So to take forward the discussion, I would now ask Dr. Kamalesh Sharkar sir that we in the field of biotechnology or microbiology specifically are not aware sometimes what the world wants or what are the crises. So how far knowing the crisis or knowing the challenges help the students or even researchers like us to attempt in for a solution of the same? So what is the role of knowing the crisis for innovation? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Saptus. As I understand, biotechnology, that means the biological science is related, and we are from the public health basically. So health, we need to find out little bit what are the problems in the country which needs to be solved, or what are the unsolved problem in the country. Let us go from backwards and go from backwards towards the backward to forward, you try to go. So what are the unsolved health related problem in our country, and what are the doable and where it is not doable. And second thing is, so you need to learn about the problems, you need to learn about the sufferings, the community problem, the community perceptions, what are the community feelings. Because while working in the field, we have realized one thing, unless there is a takers, so whatever the excellent product you produce, there will not be any buyer or taker. So it should be acceptable, it should be affordable, and there should be usually multidisciplinary approach has to be there. But one thing I understand, you have to have passion for the subject, you have to have hard work, you have to have your, to some extent luck is also required, I think, but hard work changes your luck. From negative side to positive side you will come if you do your hard work. So my sincere suggestion is you try to understand the problems of the country. As I am giving an example, we have lot of tuberculosis patient in our country. People who are suffering from TB. TB is usually called as a poor man's disease. And our country is an endemic country for TB. Endemic means there is a high number of tuberculosis patients all throughout the year in our country. So India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, these are all endemic countries. We have a huge population density, and when there is population density is high, TB is a communicable disease from one person to other person. It very easily transmits through, it is a airborne disease. The bacteria gets transmitted through air, through inhalation, etc. So we have a high number in the world's, the total number of tuberculosis, we have India harbors the 1/4, that means 25% of the whole world's TB burden is in India. So how to control TB? Where is the problem? What are the challenges? What are the obstacles? Where is the bottleneck? And you find out which bottleneck you can solve, which is solvable, which is not solvable, etc., etc. As in the morning today, I talked about the silicosis. The another importance of silicosis is silicosis, as the silica particle, when it enters into the lungs, it destroys lung macrophage. And lung macrophage is responsible for lung immunity. So when lung immunity is declined or lung immunity is damaged, the TB flares up. Because as I told, it is endemic country. The many of us or most of us, we have TB organism inside our chest, but it gets arrested because of our normal body immunity. If immunity declines, the organism flares up, so the person suffers from TB. That's why in silicosis patients, it has been observed there is a high vulnerability of developing tuberculosis. So as we have a huge number of silicosis patients in our country, so it is our understanding and observation that unless silicosis is controlled, TB will never be controlled from India. And government of India, particularly Prime Minister, already declared in the parliament that by 2025 we will eliminate TB from the country. So this is our mandate. Elimination is a big term. Elimination means there should be less than one case per 1 lakh population. So it's a, when we hear it and when we understand, realize the practical scenario, we realize that it is never possible unless silicosis is controlled. So if you find something for control of silicosis, it will also help in controlling tuberculosis by removing silicotuberculosis. So in this way, you need to find out what are the public health problems in our country, what are the different facets of it, and how disease gets transmitted. Similarly, there are a lot of non-communicable diseases like hypertension, like diabetes, like cancer. These are non-communicable, but the burden is very high. So how to reduce burden, how to reduce blood pressure, what are the environmental factors, what are the agent factors, what are the host factors, and a disease is produced when there is a synchronization between agent, host and environmental factors. If you break the chains between agent and host and agent and environment, the disease will stop occurring. So try to find out where you can work with the agent factor you can remove, or the host factor you can remove, or the environmental factor you can remove, you can control the disease. So this is in nutshell, I try to say. So try to find out the problem. Similarly, there are a lot of other environmental sanitation, the water, the hygiene, etc. Lot of economic related problem, lot of biological problem related to economy. So you can work in any sector, like air pollution is one important, because day to day our air is getting bad and bad. And those who are suffering from bronchial asthma, suffering from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, if the air quality becomes becomes polluted, they will feel breathlessness. So how to purify air in a large area or something like this. So you can think of it, these kind of problems, and how best it can be solved within our available resources, and etc. So this is a little bit about this issue. If you have any question inside your mind, you can ask me. I will try to answer you.
We'll take up the questions. Let us complete the panel, and then we'll take up the questions. So the next question I would like to pose to Professor Rudra Prasad Shah, and I hope the students would enjoy the question, because that's something we feel sometimes. The present day students are too much busy with their academic curriculum, with tests and other things. So, sir, being the academic head of a school, how do you suggest the students that to make up some time to think, because the thought component has gone down drastically, and reading or memorizing component has been increased for the last few years, while everyone is busy studying and thinking less. So what would be your views on that?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chatterjee, and also esteemed panelists. And you have, students, you have already heard, we have a lot of issues, lot of problems, and study is probably one of the problem. And we have to study and get marks, and that's what we think is necessary to go ahead, because still most of our maybe future depends on the number of what the number that we are going to get in our UG, PG and other programs. But you have to also understand this probably number is important, but there are a lot of entrepreneurs now openly saying that they are not looking for degrees. They are not interested at all whether you have got 90% or 80%, 70% or 20%, or whether you have failed, does not matter. So the world is changing. Information is necessary, and how you are going to use that information is also very important. Marks is probably going to be obsolete. Obviously, some emphasis will always going to be there, but you know, also as a teacher, it is not always the problem of the student. It also some problem is lies within as a teacher. As a teacher, we need to motivate students, and when you see the professors are saying that you need to ask question. How many of you raising hands and asking questions? Because many of you, even during your age, I had that feeling that if I am going to ask a stupid question, and that's, I think that probably my questions will be stupid, and my classmates will make fun of me. So, but you have to come out of this. Okay, all stupid questions are necessary, important, because you will learn something, because you do not know, even if it's a trivial, you do not know the answer. So it is important to ask question. No matter whether your colleagues are going to laugh or praise you, it's not important. So also, the most of the study, our curriculum, as Dr. Chatterjee mentioned, it depends, we have to memorize a lot of information that is already available in the Google, in the digital medium. And the increasing importance of digital medium is also there, that the 90% of information, or probably 100% of information that already in the books are available in the Google. So what is the importance of the your book, or whatever the curriculum that you are studying, or whatever the program, whether it's a life science or other thing. So teachers also motivate you. It is important to understand the concept, but it is not important to study the whole syllabus. It is not the duty of the teacher to complete the syllabus. It is obviously a duty, but it does not mean that he or she not going to give you an opportunity to improvise or think about the problems. There are a lot of problems, already Professor Sharkar mentioned, there are a lot of problems in our daily life. And India is there is a lot of opportunities also lies there, because we have problems and we need to solve our problems by ourselves, and it starts from the students. Okay, so as a teacher I need to motivate you to think beyond the syllabus, and whatever the information that I am passing to you, how to utilize that information to solve the problem that we are facing day to day. So I think it is the duty of the teacher as well as the students that you learn the concept and apply the concept in day-to-day life. Starts with a small problem in your, probably in your home. There is a problem, there are a lot of problems, as you know. Try to solve using the knowledge. Ask teacher. It may not be related to life science always. Ask teacher. So as a teacher, we need to come out of the out of our mold, and we need to be mentor, more mentor rather than we have to work as a mentor rather than just a teacher. And hopefully the problem will be solved. And obviously government is encouraging now to develop. There are a lot of programs. BIRAX, EJUVA is one of those programs that we got funds for. And I'm sure that many students will be got involved in that program, and you will learn a lot of things. Even as a teacher, we are going to learn from you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like the panel to take up some questions from students. Yeah, I already can see some hands, so if anyone can facilitate that.
Sir, you talk about silicosis. Sir, I have noticed one simple fact that Indian workplaces or Indian quarries, they don't prevent much dust formation. Sir, are the people in administration working on solving this issue? Prevention of the dust formation. And second question is, what are you going to do for the tuberculosis superbugs that doesn't have any antibiotics? These are the questions.
No, no. Your first question is why they don't prevent dust prevention, something like this.
No, sir. Like very little is done to prevent the dust. For example.
Yes, that you are true, because the mechanization of plant for removal of dust or minimum dust, it requires mechanization of plant, which requires huge expenditure. But in our country, because of lack of regulation and some other reasons, most of the industrialists, they do not mechanize their plant because of to avoid cost basically. And if you see in the Western country, their number of silicosis cases is much less compared to India. The reason, even in France, in German, in UK and USA, they also have the problem of silicosis, but it is restricted to very small zone where the industrial operation is there. Now the problem is in our country, if you go to Rajasthan, there is a huge rock mines, the granites and the entire country's granite and marble is supplied by Rajasthan. And in Rajasthan, if you see the huge rock is by doing manual cutting, they are making it in the smaller pieces, and the dust is generating, and mechanizing the entire big structure is really difficult, or it requires a huge amount of fund which they are not ready to pay for that.
According to you, like, it is a huge amount of fun, but I would rather think that instead of focusing on the cure, using this resource to prevent the thing at the first place would have been better. What's your thought on that?
Now, there are two kinds of prevention or three kinds of prevention. One is known as primary prevention. Primary prevention means what you are telling, that is primary prevention. Before occurring of the disease, if you take the necessary steps, that is known as primary prevention. Once the disease has occurred, but you have taken preventive steps, that is secondary prevention. In the morning, I was talking about secondary prevention. Primary prevention, the problem is we have a huge unemployment problem. There is a peer pressure. There is a industrialist pressure. So, and poverty, lack of awareness, etc. These factors are really will prevent you from taking primary prevention. Because if you do not have food inside your house, if you do not, your children, they do not have food to take, So what he will do, silicosis is a next priority to them. Before that, he has to earn money because he does not have expertise to work in other sector. He has the only expertise to patthar bhanga jo hai na, manual cutting of the stone. So that's why he is forced to take up that work and get exposed. He knows that he is getting exposed to dust and this will produce silicosis because he has seen his father, forefather, etc. dying of silicosis. In spite of that, they will go to that industry because they do not have any alternative. So these are the problem which prevents them or prevents us from taking primary prevention. Another thing we suggested them to use mask. What happens as huge amount of dust comes, they blocks the pores of the mask, and after some time they reject the mask and they start working without mask because of difficulties and whatever other. So they do not have habit of continuous use of this mask while working because of inconvenience or whatever you tell. So these are the things. Primary prevention is difficult, but primary prevention is better. So that's why secondary prevention, when early detection is possible, you can create a pressure to both the industrialists as well as the workers. So that's why the secondary prevention we have taken, because primary prevention, the employment generation, and these are the problem which we cannot solve, because all the problems you cannot solve. So you have to take up what are the solvable in realistic situation, what is not solvable. You take decision accordingly. And tell me.
Second question was what are we going to do about the tuberculosis superbugs that are immune to all kinds of antibiotics?
No, tuberculosis superbugs, I am telling silicosis is one of the most important reasons of drug-resistant tuberculosis, because silicosis means there is a fibrous band is developed inside the lungs, and when there is a extensive fibrous network, through them when blood vessel passes, the blood flow, it gets obstructed. So the proper concentration of antibiotic does not reach to the lesion, the TB lesion or the site of bacterial multiplication sites. So the treatment outcome is very uncertain in case of TB with underlying silicosis, and there is a chances of drug resistance is there. So that's why early detection of silicosis is very much important for control of TB, particularly the drug resistant tuberculosis. Okay.
We have some questions from there, please.
Hello. Good afternoon, respected teachers and everyone here. Since I belong from the domain of microbiology, we all know the use of microbes in our day-to-day life. Like, for example, we all know a common example of lactobacillus that is used for making curd. Sir, I have you can say a dream or something, vision to take the domain of microbiology to the common people in a more diverse form, in more expanded form, so that people know about this domain and can take and can extract the benefits from it. So what should I do in this regard, or what should be my approach to take this field to the common mass, not just in laboratories or in research fields, but to the common people?
Okay, so can we direct this question to Kika madam? His question is about how can he take microbiology, especially the microbes or the beneficial effect, to the common man. He's not interested in doing research, but the translation of the benefits, how it can reach common man. Your views, ma'am.
Yes, it obviously requires, because we are not confined within our research, but we for the common man, lots of workshop and different type of interactions with different villages and from where in the very much remote area, the common people sometimes go for their drinking water from the ponds where the common cows and buffaloes are also bathing in this particular pond area. So as a students or as a stakeholders of microbiology, so we need to talk with them, and these are our social responsibility. So different type of workshops, and from the institutional level, we should go with them for discussion, and discussion regarding what about the morbidity effect from this drinking of this common water, the utilization of antibiotics without prescription of the doctors. The formation of drug resistance, and after a particular time, no drugs will come to the effect. So this type of workshop or communication should be go through this higher institution, and along with the students and different stakeholders.
Thank you, ma'am. Few more questions. Yeah.
Hello. Good afternoon, all the respective members present here. So, I would like to say two things, and this is the general problem of our of us. So, being an undergraduate student, we are less knowledgeable and we are less experienced. So, when we are thinking about some innovative invention and all, and we just stick in a boundary like this. So how can we just get rid of from this boundary and think big? The domain of microbiology that we can use for the people and society.
Madam, I would like to answer.
I think nowadays that domain, restricted domain is not present because there is Google. So if you want to increase your domain, you can. Now it is depend on you if you want to increase or not. Now again, there is something in Google. There are, if you go on just searching in Google, you need to know which sites are authentic site. In that, your teacher can help you. Like there are good publication in the sites like Science Direct. You have to go to the journal because the information is authentic over there. You have to go to the website of SES publications, Nature, maybe, Cell, these publications. They will give the up-to-date knowledge to you. So if you want to increase your knowledge, okay, you can now.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to add to it. Yes, madam.
I'm support the distinguished panel members, and I'm also talk to the students. Not only gather their students, they have to dream to do something. Actually, in our subconscious mind, we have to churn this type of different type of work we want to do. So finally, they can achieve this part. Not for the graduate or undergraduate or school students, but from the beginning, when during our growing period, we have to dream what to do and how to solve the problem in our society.
Absolutely. So I think it all starts with empathy. I still remember award of innovation was awarded to a little girl. She was around 11 years of age, who prepared a automated dishwasher. Now, dishwashers are available with big companies which costs much, but she prepared one just because she wanted to help her mother. So that kickstarts your innovation, where you think that I know a problem and let me try to solve it. So I think it starts from there. If Rudra sir would like to add something to it.
Yeah, I think the fellow panelist already mentioned, and you need to study, you need to learn. When you say that I am not experienced or I do not know, who is stopping you from learning? So there are ample amount of digital information available, and you can talk to your teachers also. They will definitely guide you, as ma'am mentioned, that there are certain authentic and sites and other. So let me ask you a simple question. So you are studying in undergraduate, postgraduate, whatever. How many books till now you have studied? Last 1 or 2 years, how many books, how many chapters actually you have studied or gone through? You have not. So that's a problem. You are reluctant to study. And you see all the informations will come from the social media. Social media is definitely good for certain purposes, but you also have to study yourself. Teachers will definitely motivate you, but some kinds of motivation should come from yourself, inside you. So first, before embarking on the journey, and you want to do a lot of things, first I would suggest you to start helping your father and mother at home. There are a lot of issues, there are a lot of problems. And if you give a hand to them, and you will see that your learning begins from that. Have you asked your mother or father, what are the problems you are facing last 2 years? You start your journey from at your home. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Good afternoon, respected sirs. And I have a question regarding the pandemic. Why does it come in waves, and how the cases are actually calculated? Precisely it is calculated.
Sir, I think you...
Why does it come in waves? Actually, whenever there is accumulation of large number of susceptible persons, it becomes an epidemic. So it comes as a wave. Wave means why? When a large number of persons gets infected, they develop immunity against the natural infection immunity, and immunity protects next 3, 4, 5, 6 months depending on duration of the antibody. So after that they become again susceptible. So if the virus or bacteria or whatever the organism circulates in the air, so they will develop again in an epidemic proportion. That's why in many infectious diseases we see the epidemic in a kind of waves. In measles also, if there is unimmunized community, you will find every 3 to 4 years there is a outbreak kind of thing in unimmunized immunity. Here in COVID also you are seeing it as a waves. This is basically the duration of it depends on duration. That's why it is waves. What is your second question?
Sir, the second question was how the cases are calculated precisely.
See, cases are calculated, there is a method which is called burden estimation. Burden estimation is, suppose in Calcutta, forget about Calcutta, it is a cosmopolitan population. Even in Calcutta, there are Calcutta city, if I talk, how many wards are there? If you take 3, 4 representative wards, suppose 2 from the east side, 2 from the west, 2 from the south, 2 from the north, 2 from the central, and you house to house complete a house to house survey, or whatever, if you have some digital information system who are the infected, you try to estimate in those area, those 5 or 6 whatever the wards. So this number of population and this number is the cases. So you will find the rate of this. You apply in the entire Calcutta population. So this is the estimated number of cases in Calcutta. So it is something like this. This is known as the estimated number of the burden. In this way it is calculated.
And sir, one final question. Sorry.
Yes, sure.
Sir, why does this variations come? That means at first we were using very kinds of drugs against this kind of disease called COVID. It got we can say it got antigenic variation, and those kinds of drugs are not used anymore. So why does this variation take place?
Now, just to tell me once again what exactly you want to know.
Sir, why does this kind of immunity against this kind of drug take place? That these drugs are not potent anymore. They cannot stop.
See, I am telling this vaccine, if the vaccine changes its genetic characteristic or antigenic structure, the vaccine will not. You are talking about drug or vaccine. There are two different mechanism of action. For drug, you may find resistance to the drug, but for the vaccine, how the vaccine is produced, it is taking the genetic material from the organism itself. So against the genetic material, antibody is produced, and the vaccine is produced taking the either genetic material or taking the antibody, synthetic antibody kind of thing. So suppose this time the virus is little bit, as you know, in COVID it is RNA virus, so time to time it mutates, it changes its character. Suppose a small percentage of changes are there in the mutation, suppose 10%, 20%, then it will work. That drug or vaccine will work. If suppose 50% is changed, then probably that vaccine will not work against this mutant strain. So in this way it works. And regarding drugs also, I am telling, sometimes you will find somebody claims this drug works, after some days another public they told this drug does not work. So there are lot of other factors, host factors are there, agent factors are there. One of the factors I am telling is the viral load. Viral load means the amount of virus per unit blood, you can say, or the when we collect the nasal swab. In the swab, they roughly they can estimate the amount of virus, that is known as viral load. It has been observed when there is viral load is high, if you give antiviral drug, remdesivir, you have heard the name remdesivir. Some doctors will say remdesivir works excellent. Some doctors will say remdesivir does not work. That means something is definitely there which they are not aware, because it requires little bit of observation and research kind of things. What is my understanding, and not only my, similar people like me, we interacted amongst ourselves and we observed when viral load is high, and if the drug is given at the very beginning, it works. But when there is viral load is low, if the load is low, naturally antiviral drug ka to role itna hoga nahi udhar, then it will not work. So that's why somebody, because it has been observed when somebody catches infection, sometimes he gets the infection with high viral load, sometimes he gets the infection with low viral load. In a high viral load cases, at the very beginning, if you give remdesivir, it will work excellent. But in a low viral load, then probably some other factors they play for disease progression, that is immune dysregulation and some other factors. In that case, antiviral drug does not work. So it requires continuous research kind of thing.
Thank you, sir. We'll take another 2 questions, okay? I think he raised his hand first, please.
Good afternoon, sir. You've already answered my question to a certain extent, but still I would like to answer this, that we already do have some devices which are helping, the environment to get pollution free, and a lot of industries are advised to utilize these devices too. But somewhere or the other, as I've already mentioned, the cost is a very big factor for a lot of industries, and they are not utilizing those proper devices to purify the air and release it out with the harmful things and the harmful particles. So don't you think that the politicians should also or the government should act upon this? Because again, at the same point, if I say, even if I talk about my own self or the common people, we just listen. There have been a lot of motivational talks before, there have been a lot of motivational films made before, but people just listen, watch, and they go home and they forget about things. So don't you think that we ourselves should take some initiative towards people, and do you have some better suggestions that how we can actually educate people upon showing them the true fact that what will exactly happen, or how the great destruction is coming if we keep on continuing polluting our environment?
So I think he is hinting more towards regulation and compliances, a strict regulation and compliances.
What is your basic problem? Basic problem means not your problem for acceptability of that instrument. Is it cost is the factor?
So for a lot of industries, like if I talk about the industry that my father works for, is Bhushan, now it's a Jindal. So even they don't have the devices for the purification of air. but contradictory, there are some other industries too by side which are using that. So don't you think that the government should give a check upon those industries as well? Like, why don't you use it? And you make money, so just use it.
See, government cannot force anybody to use it, but what I suggest, you try to find out how to reduce the cost. Is there any mechanism, changing the body parts or changing the mechanism of action, something like this, and be competitive with the market, because in the modern economy, unless you be competitive, you cannot survive. So you have to change the design and at a lower cost or comparable cost. So you think in that way.
So, and the next one that I asked is this:
Yeah.
can you please give us some great initiatives that will actually motivate people to do something for the world instead of just taking it for a cause, taking it for granted?
The motivation for doing innovation.
No, sir, for caring for the environment, because usually
Care for the environment. No, see, I am telling, environmental pollution is a big thing, because I know we worked a lot about it, and if you see the Delhi, in the winter time, the pollution becomes so bad, so the asthmatic and other lot of people, those who are particularly prone to asthma, they have developed full-blown asthma, something like respiratory diseases increase during the winter season many times, 2-3 folds times it increases. So environmental pollution, definitely awareness of the community, and how to get the clean air, that also we need to educate the people. That is there, but I do not know the way it should be done. Maybe we are not doing that. There should be some mechanism to do it. That though I do not know. Definitely some departments is responsible for that. That is beyond my area or knowledge. I do not know.
Okay, thank you,
Who
sir.
can educate the community in large community? I do not know. Maybe some mechanism we have to find.
Good afternoon, teachers.
Yeah.
Ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, as you have told that the seed of innovation lies under multidimensional thinking, so can you please elaborate that how can I practice or how can I train my mind so that I can apply it in my daily life curriculums, or where to start it to go from the single-minded thinking to multidimensional thinking?
When you are going through some chapter or some topic, okay, just try to think beyond the syllabus and marks, like what will be its application. I am from an engineering background, from an engineering university, so we always think of application. Why I am reading it? What is its application in my day-to-day life? And if possible, do some models in your home. You can do it. And if you want to do something, you can do in the lab. There are many small projects you can do. Each and every topic has some application in our day-to-day life. That is why it is taught. But during going through that, we do not actually think of that. We only think which questions will come, how to answer it better to get marks. So I am just asking you, because and someone is saying about social media also, in what is called it is Facebook, Instagram. In each social medium, there are some scientific groups. They interact with each other, okay? And I don't know how many of you are their members. They interact with each other scientifically to exchange their scientific knowledge. So if you want to think, you start thinking from today itself. Okay, what I have read, what is its implication? How could I apply it for something, doing something new, or how it is already in application for something in the lab, maybe in the market, or in my day-to-day life. It is always related. Actually, how this syllabus is formed. Before making this syllabus, we are thinking that this will be applicable. That is why it is included in the syllabus. Okay. Now, when most of the students, not all, what I find in my class also, that there are students who just think in this way. Okay, that what is the application? They think beyond that. They themselves make something that make us also surprised. But it proves that students, if they want, they can do everything.
Thank you, ma'am.
So we would restrict the question answer session now because we have certain sessions following. I thank the panelists. I thank Professor Dr. Keka Sarkar, Dr. Kamalesh Sarkar sir, Dr. Piali Bashak madam, and Professor Rudra Prasad Shaha sir for gracing the occasion. And I hope the talk and discussion was stimulating for you and you would carry something from the seminar today. With this, I thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. So, in a short while, Dr. Shujit Kaur will be joining us in virtual mode over Zoom link. So, kindly wait for a while. Hello. Sir, is it audible? Sir, kindly switch on the video. Sir, kindly switch on the video so that we can see. Yes, sir. Sir, is it audible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
okay.
so now, Dr. Shujit Kaur, headmaster of headmaster of Ganipur Shitaltala High School, Mahesh Tala from West Bengal, will be our next guest lecturer, and he is also a Shiksha Ratan awardee in the year 2021. And sir will be sharing his views on innovation on climate, pollution, and environment. So, sir, you can share your presentation.
It is along with you.
Yes, sir, but as you are operating it virtually, so will it be helpful if you operate it, or else we can share also?
Now you just shared because I am in mobile phone. That's why
Okay,
it is the
okay.
problem.
Sir, just hold for a second. So then we need to keep on changing, okay? So as you will be saying, we will be changing the slides.
Okay, I'll say you next. Then it's okay.
So is it visible properly? So is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay, so you can continue.
Okay. Myself, Dr. Sujeev Kaur from Gonipur Shitala High School. And actually, I am a researcher in the field of environment and technology and its various aspects. Today, I am delivering a lecture on sustainable development goals. Basically, the problem is that we are thinking for the sustainable development and its various goals without considering the physical environment. But the fact is that each and every aspects which are dealing for the sustainable development are partly or partially related to the various types of physical environment. And I am actually delivering a lecture on that. Basically, sustainable development, next slide, please. Basically, sustainable development has 17 goals. Please, next slide. Yes. It has 17 goals. And the developed countries of the world has considered, mainly United Nations, to solve the problems which are facing by the human being of the present era. And the other most important thing is that prior to the sustainable development, there was a concept of Millennium Development Goals. And from that aspect, various institutes were providing various types of solution for the challenges taken by the developed countries and the developing countries of the world. But next slide. But the problem is that the Millennium Development Goal was basically developed on the various types of concepts developed by the developing countries and the developed countries of the world. That's why the main focus has been transformed towards the economic development plan. And that is why the problem occurred. Next slide, please. In the sustainable development goals, actually, at first, we mainly depends on the awareness creation for the human being, and along with awareness creation, we normally try to implement all the aspects of human development goals to the present society. And that is why an effective system for managing information and as well as uh, information uh, changes and information collection is also an important part of this subject. Information normally an inevitable part or actually an ingredient of the national development, which mainly depends on various types of data, the data collected by the various agencies responsible for management, and not only that, in the social aspects and as well as in the various other fields, the collected data and informations are also very much helpful for the sustainable development goal. Next slide, please. If we think the difference between Millennium Development Goal and Sustainable Development Goal, I have just showing a slide over here. Developing countries are focusing on the Millennium Development Goals, and the Sustainable Development Goals is considered as a program of the universal facts. The social aspects are also correlated in this area. Social, economic, and environmental aspects as also considered for the sustainable development, and the domestic investment is also an important part for the sustainable development. Not only that, big data and the data generated by the general citizen, and the other most important fact is that geospatial data and Earth observation data are also very much important. But the problem occurred when we have considered the geospatial data specifically for the sustainable development. We have considered only 17 aspects for the sustainable development goal. Next slide, please. That is, I think it is very small in size. Anyhow, number one is we have to think widely, we have to consider widely, and we have to change each and every aspects which are related to the sustainable development. Number two is zero hunger. That means we are trying to get a zero hunger level all over the universe. Number three, good health and well-being. It is very important because most of the countries of the world which are not facing this condition, and it is a main problem. And not only that, it is related with the temporal and spatial scale. Number four is quality education. It is also vital because most of the countries are not getting quality education, and that's why in the sustainable development goal, the main criteria was was to prepare a quality development principle, quality education principle for each and every person all over the universe. Next is gender equality. Gender equality is an important aspect, and in most of the cases, gender equality are not practiced in major countries of the world, and that is why this problem is creating some resource crisis all over the world. Next is affordable and clean energy. That's very important because most of the world, most of the industries and various other aspects of the world are mainly depends on the energy generated by the fund resources. But these are the exhaustible in nature. That's why clean energy is very much important. And economic growth is the eighth point. That means number 8 is economic growth. To get a proper sustainable development, proper economic growth is necessary. Otherwise, the hunger and various types of poverty should not be cleaned from the world, should not be sustained by the human being. That's why the economic growth was on the 8th position. Then the industry and innovation and infrastructural development, that is very much important. Industry, innovation, and infrastructural development is the most important factor over here because it can create huge employment opportunity. It can create the neutral stuff into resources. It can create the global development framework, etc., etc. That's why infrastructural development and proper infrastructural development with respect to the environmental crisis and scenario, it is very important. Number 10 is reduced inequalities. That's very problem because in most of the cases, inequalities normally occur due to the economic variation, resource utilization, variation in the resource utilization capacity, and as well as the resource concentration or deposition, etc., etc. That's why we have to minimize the inequality so that each and every person of the world could enjoy the resources over the surface. Next is sustainable cities and communities. That's very important. Urbanization is a major aspect of the present situation. And in most of the cases, urbanization is spreading, urban areas are spreading, and the village populations are quickly moving towards the urban areas. That's why sustainability of the cities are very important. So we have to prepare proper plan, development, and growth aspects so that urban areas should sustain a longer period. Next is responsible consumption and production. Sustainable development is a specific aspect, is a specific type of development plan where we normally think for the future generation. That's why we should be very much responsible for the consumption and as well as production. We have to minimize consumption and we have to produce huge amount of production to face the continuously growing population over the earth. That is the very important. Next is climatic action. Actually, presently, we are moving through an era of climatic change, global warming, and at the same time, sea level is rising. The isostatic balance is more or less in a major part of the world. Isostatic balance has lost. And not only that, the various aspects like cyclone, disaster, etc., landslide, etc., are continuously increasing along with the climatic change. That's why if we are unable to consider the climatic action plan properly, then sustainable development activities might be a cosmetics of the present generation. Next is life below water. That's very important because we know that major part of the Southeast Asian countries and the various other parts normally normally receive protein like food from the life below water. That means from the fish. But the life below water is hampering very quickly due to the loss of ecosystem. So we have to protect life ecosystem below the water so that the fish production should be balanced and should sustain for a longer time for the necessities of the human being over the surface. Next is life on land. It is the most important aspect that living beings normally the part which we are considering are mostly on the land because man is a life on the land. That is why life on the land along with the ecosystem over the land should be properly managed so that living beings over the earth's surface should live long or sustain their life for a longer period. Next is peace, justice, and strong institutions. That is very important. That depends on law and various other aspects. But actually, the world is moving through injustice and actually warful time. That is the most problem of the world, and most of the powerful countries are mainly depends on the aggravation or to show their power over the comparatively less powerful countries. And that is why peace is very much necessary. Otherwise, the science will be misleaded and false application of sustainable development goal might occur in the case of war, fear, and various other such conditions. Next is partnership for the goals. That is very important because in most of the cases, some countries which are not able to produce sufficient amount of infrastructure or like that, or the industrial development, or they face power crisis, they normally depends on the supply of they normally depend on the supply of various other collateral companies or the countries which can easily afford their problems. And by this way, international and national level trades organizations are also included in this partnership position. Next slide. Actually, I have already explained this slide, so please next slide. It is very remarkable problem that civil registration and the various statistical information which are not available with the developed and developing countries due to some misleaded facts. Here I have indicated nearly a third of the world's children under 5 does not officially exist. That means birth registration has not occurred So the number of people is not actual in figure, which are now utilized in the field of sustainable development. Next, 77 countries lack sufficient data on those living in poverty. That's also very important. And the definition of poverty and the level of minimum income is also not properly justified in some countries. So, without frequent data, we can't monitor whether the countries are reducing poverty or not, because such data are under the dark condition. Next slide, please. Actually, where data is necessary, we actually depends on data for the improved decision making and policy making, and at the same time increase citizen empowerment, and as well as the increased innovation and entrepreneurship. To achieve a monitored sustainable development, we should go through this data. Otherwise, any type of policy prepared by any organization should be failure. And in the term increased citizen empowerment is a vital factor of data analysis, because in most of the countries, citizens are not enjoying proper power. And not only that, the various types of innovation which are applied for the development of the society and nation are not properly utilized by the common people. Next. In most of the cases, government and the civil societies normally try to generate data for statistics only and for the analyze some sustainable development aspects, and they try to monitor this framework. But actually, in major cases, these data by the way we are collecting are not improper. And that is why the process of monitoring is becoming failure in major cases. Then the other most important is that dynamicity of the data is very important, and we are considering data as, for example, the census data. Normally we get after 11 years or 10 years. That is why the proper judgment is not possible with respect to such a huge gap within the data. And that is why the production, innovation, and accessibility are losing day by day, and the processes of sustainable development is also becoming misleaded. Next. We the people of present generation normally receive some Earth observation data. And the problem is that when we are considering Earth observation data, we are not taking any internal Earth surface data. That is the main problem of the sustainable development goal. We are taking biodiversity and ecosystem sustainability data. We are taking disaster resilience data. We are taking energy and mineral resource management data, food security and sustainable development data, infrastructure and transport network, public health, sustainable urban development, water resource management, etc. But we are not considering the various informations and the other aspects and the various other processes which are very much active within the Earth's interior, and all the forces or energies present within the Earth's interior are partly or partially related to these Earth observations data. Because sustainable urban development is only possible if we consider the land of an urban area should sustain for a longer time. As for Kolkata, if I consider, you have already seen that at the time of metro work at the Bowbazar metro area, a huge landslide and subsidence has occurred in the Bowbazar area. So it is the main problem of Earth observation without thinking of the internal structure, internal strata, and the internal soil layers, etc. Next slide. So there are some roadmaps. That means in this way we have to move for the sustainable development, and mainly the multi-stakeholder involvement, that's very important. That means in each and every aspects, each and every production system, each and every performance of the society, there are some multiple stakeholders. And if we directly or indirectly involve these stakeholders properly within the sustainable development goal, then the action might occur its actual shape. Next is situation assessment. That's important. At present, we are on the verge of global climatic crisis. Global climate is changing very rapidly. But in this case, when NASA-like organization has already indicated that Kolkata is a town in danger, so if we want to take any developmental plan or activities over Kolkata, we have to consider or we have to assess the actual situation of the city. Otherwise, it will be failure in the long run. Next is priority mapping. That is very important. Priority-wise mapping is necessary. That's why priority mapping helps us by phase developmental activities. It is also related to the mental map. And if we generate the proper mental map, then the priority mapping is possible in its normal cases. Next is data or technology gaps assessment. Data gap and technological gap may be assessed properly with the help of the various data received by the observer and received by the nation. But type of gaps is not easily assessed. That is very important of what type of technological gap is there, what type of data gaps are there. Otherwise, our roadmaps might be incompleted. Requirements and analysis is also an important factor. That means which type of data is required. We have to analyze properly and why such type of data is required, and data of which time is required is also important. Next is commitment to action. The problem is that the countries which are mainly controlled by the political parties, the political leaders normally give their commitments on the stage, but commitments doesn't occur in actual field of action. And at that condition, any type of development plan might be failure because of the unjudgmental problems of actual problems and facts. Next slide, please. In most of the cases, I have just given a action route. Basically, we are trying to official data for planning and monitoring. And there are two ways: geospatial data and privately held data. Geospatial data sometimes generated by the citizen and sometimes generated by the organizations. And private held data are normally open data. And in most of the cases, these data are summatively could produce a proper information on decision making, because in most of the cases, the data generated by the common people reflects actual facts of the ground. And the geospatial data sometimes are incomplete. And common citizens' data, generated data, are sometimes more valuable. That's why if we take all these data together, then the proper development plan or actual data for decision making might be produced. Next. Actually, there is a roadmap, or better say it is a framework approach to the sustainable development goal. And sustainable development goal normally depends on framework to adapt further learning processes. That means we want to develop internal inertia of the human being, the psychology of the human being, and various other aspects by which they could generate a proper data. And sometimes we have to arrange some workshops for the common awareness of the common people, and at the same time we have to consider some feedbacks for the proper development aspects. internet normally produce some information presently to the present generation. So we may consider internet data, but we have to refresh the data with respect to the citizen-based survey data and common people-based survey data. And in the other aspects, various types of organizations should be included, and various types of support countries for a specific sustainable development goal plan should be considered to prepare their roadmaps or roadmap process properly. We have to prepare a national strategy properly in places, and that should be depends on the priority basis. That means some areas are on the verge of destruction by the landslide. So sustainable development goals should be adapted properly on that area at first. Previously, in the planning concept, it was known as planning region, likely the DVC region, etc. Next slide. In the last phase, actually, which we are doing, is that we are preparing a roadmap for the sustainable development with the help of data for action, official statistics for sustainable development goal, and institutional or financial capacity foundations. But the problem is that official statistics are in some cases reflects improper data collection. And as the common people are involved in such activities, there are some lacking of expertise, and that's why in some cases sustainable development might be misleaded. Next slide. Actually, at present, we are thinking that in the various field of study, various field of research, and various other activities, we are failing to achieve sustainable development goals. And we think that Agenda 2030 in 2015 by the world leaders include fighting poverty, hunger, and climatic crisis, as well as achieving health and well-being, is not possible till 2073 because the rate of progress is very slow. And that is why sustainable development might become a cosmetic without thinking its proper route, its proper position, and its proper direction in most of the cases, we have failed to draw or to develop a proper roadmap because actually we don't know what type of data we should consider and what type of efficacy we should earn within a very small period, because we are very quickly, we are moving towards climatic crisis or environmental crisis. Next slide. Actually, sustainable development has become a high-level political forum. And actually, we need it. But the problem is that lack of knowledge of the high-level political forum. They don't have knowledge of sustainable development plan or goals, but they think for themselves only and for their country only. You know that carbon trading is an important factor which has been practiced since long time in various countries just to avoid their problems of environmental changes, and by this way they want to capture the market of the world by continuing their production of industrial goods and continuing their production of or the emission of excessive amount of carbon to the nature. Next. That's why it might be a dream to the various nations in recent future, because we are hanging over the imbalanced natural surface. We are thinking for the betterment. We are considering the balanced environmental aspect without considering the actual facts. And that is why the sustainable development goal for which we are moving very rapidly might be a failure one in recent future. Next. Actually, just I have indicated some causes of failure, and I just indicate that in most of the cases, the underperformance of the water-related diseases, sanitation, nutrition, and basic medical care and shelter. Sustainable development goal might not be fulfilled. Personal rights, particularly, declining very rapidly in the various countries of the world. Next slide. And that is why, which I have indicated previously, the 17 goals, all the goals are facing a vast gap, and economic opportunities and technological advancement that undermine innovation and growth. And we are trying to improve our access to the economic opportunities without considering the natural circumstances. That's why our each and every target is becoming failure. Next. I have already indicated this slide, so please next slide. It has also been explained, but the fact is that the global hunger actually is rising very quickly, but sufficient data is not available with us. And that is why the development goal is not indicating the proper data in proper places, and as a result, development plans are becoming failure very quickly. Next is global carbon emission is also important factor, which I have already explained in my previous discussion. And that is why global carbon project and to make a proper development plan to control carbon all over the world is very much necessary. Next. Basically, the development is a big question now, because in this plan, some parts of the earth information has not considered some important data like geotectonics. They are not considering the seismological data. They are not considering isostatic data. They are not considering the physics of the climatic change. They are not considering each and every dimension of global warming. They are not considering the probability of sea level rise. They are not considering the subsurface stratigraphy of the soil and land. They are not also considering soil erosion, afforestation, and deforestation. That's why these aspects are directly or indirectly related to the each and every data collected for the sustainable development. So without considering this data, if we go through the analysis of the various other data available, sustainable goal might be failure. So you have to introduce all these aspects mainly in the curriculum, mainly in the field of study, mainly in the field of research work. Otherwise, the each and every development plan taken by the present generation will be failure in recent future. Next. So, physical environment is the mother, physical environment is the creator, physical environmental is the neutral stuff. So we have to collect data from the physical environment properly so that our ecosystem should sustain fast. Without sustainability of the ecosystem, man will not sustain over that surface. So if we move towards a world with sustainable development, without any man over the earth's surface, then the process or strategy which is sustainable development is considering now is possible. Otherwise, man over the earth's surface along with sustainable development is necessary for our future generation. That's why research should be directed in this way. Next slide. I have just indicated the problems and I have already analyzed all these aspects. So we have to consider the physical environment along with the sustainable development goal. So sustainability of the man and sustainability of the environment are correlated. Only sustainability of the economy is not the way of solution. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It is my proud privilege to say the vote of thanks for sir, because he is one of my teacher and an eminent researcher and a great teacher. And so we missed him today physically in the campus, but he gave the presentation on virtual mode. And the identification of problem has been one of the greatest challenge, and which was very well and appropriately deliberated by sir. So I thank you profusely on behalf of Adamas University, and I welcome you, sir, to our campus sometime for a visit. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. So our next speaker will be Swami Shuparnanandaji from Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture, Gold Park. So, sir, can you hear me properly? Hello?
Hello?
Sir, is it audible?
Yes, audible.
Okay, so our next speaker will be Swami Shuparnanandaji from Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture, Gold Park. Sir, kindly share your views.
Om Jananim Sharadam Devi Ramakrishnam Jagatgurum Padapadnetayo Sitva Pranamami Murmur. Respected audience and the speakers, I understand that today's seminar on innovation towards achieving sustainable development goals, you have, among other ideas, added peace. Peace for innovation. Of course, I have to relate both peace and innovation to the sustainable development goals. So sustainable development is something quite different from the actual development that we are going to have. We have to judge whether we leave behind for our posterity enough resources on the face of this earth so that they can also have the same rate of development of the economy of the world, all the economies of the world, without being disturbed in the least. That is, on the craze of having a higher rate of development goals, we do not have any right, I should say, to plunder the existing resources and completely exhaust it. We have to guard our development space somewhere. This craze for higher standard of living and the competition for showing higher rate of growth in the per capita income or national income or the domestic product level has become the thought of the day. So here we are confronted with innovation. We are constantly innovating so that we can beat the other nations in the race. And that makes we have to make use of our limited resources in a competitive spirit. It is good that the world economists, social activists, politicians, they have come to the senses that this rat race in having higher consumption level for each country has to stop. And for that reason, there would have to be a turn on innovation level also. Can we remain satisfied with whatever we have? I won't say that we have to go back to the primitive stage. But we have to fix up the level of standard of living somewhere below the maximum, so that space for the depletion of the resources would stop and we can have full satisfaction that we are happy, we are peaceful, and we leave behind for the generations to come sufficiently so that they can also have their own role to play. I'm not going to make my topic much complicated, mind that. And it is good for us that the consensus people all around the globe have drawn a limit, or had planned to draw a limit using the resources available for development. The craze for higher rate of development has to stop. And that indirectly means that instead of looking into other modes of tackling this situation, you have to depend on some philosophy. You have to depend on some workable solution. Workable solution. By putting a limit to our consumption. But it is very difficult to make this plan effective. Why? Because of independence, because of freedom given to producer and consumer, to produce and consume more they want. And they are allowed to waste. And we say that we have to allow waste because we have to provide employment. The teeming millions. I think I have made myself clear on this issue. Then you have to go to the root cause. The people on their own, the consumers and producers on their own should feel that this is not a function of either consumption or production. It is not a function of utility. It is not a function of satisfaction. It is not a function of profit. Usually, the producer should go for profit maximizations. And the consumers, they go for maximization of satisfaction. The producers produce good and bring this good to the market. They always charge higher prices for the product. And the consumer, they always are ready to give less price, big buy. So the actions and interaction, the free interplay of this demand and supply functions use will settle down the price. Yes. But here you have to maneuver this price. You must not allow producers to produce for maximum profit. You have the right to allow even the consumers to consume a product much with highest satisfaction. What's the result? The result is that you have to administer price. Price is not fixed. Price should not be allowed to be fixed by the free play of demand and supply. The free market is a misnomer now. The problem is acute here. So I say you have to define peace, happiness. This is not a product. Product of anything material. You think of Lord Buddha, he had everything. But the ultimate goal is the realization of the divine within. The power would not come from outside. Power is all within. And that power, if it has to manifest itself, we have to take to the proper methods. It is not by leveling up the consumption level. Power will come to us, making us all better persons. So peace is not a function of the money we have, money we are going to deposit with the bank. It has got nothing to do with the enormous wealth that we produce. Had it been so, then Buddha would not have denounced the world and took up the beggar's bowl, though he was not a beggar. But he coined, returned, Bhikkhu, Bhikkhu and Bhikkhu, Bhikshu, Bhikkhu, Bhikshu. He is a beggar. The Bhikshu, he is a master. But he lives on daily. Both of them are living on alms. Mind that Buddha was not in peace at all. And still remember, the child was born to him that very day. He had a beautiful child, beautiful wife, a big empire to rule. But all these could not give him the solace. He left the home and heart in order to find peace, and he got it. Not only he got it, he said, mankind for a period of 2 or 3 or 4 centuries, he spread his ideas far and wide. Northern India, southeastern India, some Indian countries, they are much involved. And they must enrich themselves with the peace, message of peace, message of non-violence. Most important. But peace is a function of a sense of belonging. A sense of belonging. Today, 2 brothers are at loggerheads. Why? They live in enmity. They are all virtual enemies. They have everything, but they do not belong to one another. If there is no love, if there is no satisfaction within, happiness within, we cannot live in the family with wife, husband, children. Peace is not the product of anything material, it is a sense of belonging. Mind that. I just request you to remember Buddha. Buddha's sannyasa was not for himself. Buddha wasn't hanging. He could lose himself in meditation. And yes, personally, he can attain samadhi. Samadhi and dhyana means the same thing. They both the same thing. And you have the bliss of meditation leading to samadhi. I can just make it simpler. Dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. If you can fix your mind to an object or an idea for 12 seconds, you have one dharana. Such 12 dharanas will make one dhyan, and such 12 dhanas will make one samadhi. So 12 dhanas would lead to samadhi, and it is a blissful state. That way you can solve your personal problems, like Buddha. But Buddha didn't finish there. He didn't stop there. His sannyasa, his attainment, his renunciation was for the good of all. He showed us the path leading to peace and happiness. The path he followed is obviously ahimsa, non-violence. Your meditative mind, very calm and quiet, you may be personally. It can come to your head in a major way if you sincerely pursue it. But it is also seen that the persons are having dibbogya, the self-knowledge of the divine, a divine of kandogya, the practical knowledge. Such people, their self is no doubt because they run after their own personal salvation. They try to put an end to their own personal problems, spiritual problems, and they do succeed. But all are not going to become sannyasis, or mendicants, or beggars, like that. You have to stay in society. And you have to belong to others. Even at household, you have to have that experience of the divine equity through selfless work. You have to serve others unselfish. In all your dealings, you will belong to others, make adjustments, create room for discussion. Otherwise, your divine knowledge will pose a veritable threat to your existence in the family. It is love. Love and love alone is more important than samadhi. So know that the world is this world is covered in this divine presence. Ishavasya Vidam Sar. Ishopanishad declares. Jat tincha jagatyam java. Whatever you see, even the atom, even the particle, is divine. This theory is not very hard to see. Every boy, even within in psychologists, Every student living in colleges, schools, they come to know. The world is pulsating with life. Okay, just think to develop something. Tena tattena bhunditha. You have to give up something in order to enjoy. You cannot enjoy without giving up for others. Tena tattena bhunditha. Enjoy through renunciation. What kind of renunciation? Ma gridho. There must not be any greed. Ma gridho. No. Ma gridho. Why? Because so the riches that you have in your own personal account does not belong to you. That's it. It belongs to all. You have to offer everything to the Lord. And what comes back as you add in prasada, you take particularly. And in prasada, you should not expose your greed. You have to guard your consumption and be happy. You have to feed others who are going one days together without food. You have to spend a lot to those around you who are diseased but do not have sufficient means to see a doctor. You have to take care of the education of the brilliant boys and girls in and around your surroundings. This is your task. You have to live by these ennobling ideas. Because you are a peace lover. You seek peace, seek happiness. And happiness is good. If you take food, high food, I mean to say that junk food and this and that, if you take indiscriminately, you have to suffer. Suffer from diseases. We invite the diseases by taking our dishes, taking our food indiscriminately. So every inordinate desire, you have to come. Every inordinate desire. And who is to judge? You yourself, the best judge. So through innovations, you try to reduce cost, this and that. But it is also true that through innovations, you are enhancing the speed of development. Your product is not being sold in the market, so you have to innovate. Innovate some theory, some mechanism, so as to reduce the price of it, and then you conquer the market. Everybody would buy your product because cheaper. Innovation has this tendency. My previous speaker was speaking on climate, pollution, environment. Yes, because of this greed, we have to produce more, and gradually we have to deplete the resources indiscriminately. The Sahajagna Prajasista Purovata Prajapati, Anena Aposam Sabdam, Esha Votu Istakamudu. We have been created not alone, but along with Jagga, sacrifice, which Buddha has taught. We are all supposed to follow the Buddha's tradition. Sahajagga Prajasista Purovata Prajapati. The Creator, He didn't create humans all by themselves. Along with the humans, He created the Jogga. And so, with Jogga, with sacrifice, and renounce, through renunciation, you grow. Through renunciation, you grow. But we do not renounce for others. We all spend on our living, and whatever is surplus, we put it into the different modes of investment. This is the fact, being fact. But if you grow along by taking along with your book journey this sacrifice, which we may call charity. You have to be charitable even to the extent. Then you will get everything that you like. This is from the Gita. Istakamudu means whatever you like to get will be given. Never forget that you have to give up for others. I know you have all been giving up in the form of tax. You know, Maharaj, how is it that you say we do not give up? We give up the compulsory tax of so many varieties. Yes, you are giving up. The state has taken up the issue. But still, the gap between the haves and have-nots is gradually widening. This is our personal problem, personal issue. We have to look into that. No government will do that. We just take, for example, the providing food, clothes, shelter, health, and education. These 5 things we have taken a place to provide for our people. We have been collectively and individually trying for the centuries together, but we have not been able to provide all these 5 minimum things together. This is the picture of the entire world. Why? Craze for development is responsible. Craze for development. Mind that the communist movement failed. So socialist movement failed. The concept of welfare state even failed. Capitalist movement even failed. The mixture of these two even failed. So it is not, the solution is not there when it comes from above. You have to look after the people who are suffering from so many problems in your locality. You come out. You be savior of the people around you. Because you know better who needs what, not the government. You have to curb your own consumption and have peace. I will conclude by referring to a very small incident. Suppose you are on a particular day very much sorrowful, very much dejected, suffering from agony, mental agony. Might be you have been removed by your employer, by your seniors, or you have quarreled with your near and dear ones. That day you come out of your room, of your house, with some money and go on distributing randomly among those who stand by the roadside on your road. Every day you walk, seriously, every day you walk through them. They were sitting the two sides of the road, but you didn't pay it. But the day when you are sorrowful, you just try to do some random charity. You do not look into the amount you are giving. You fold it and you will take. You will see those who got more than 100 rupees, they would run after you. Sir, you have made a mistake. You have given me 100 rupees. Someone will say, you have given me 500 rupees. But no, I have not. I have not given you the mistake. It is you. Okay. They will bless you. You will find that job. All your sorrow, and that would leave you on the spot. If you run after peace, the peace is here in your own behavior. You do practice it gradually as best you can and see. You become a better person. So mind that. I inform you that I had written down something else. So how peace can invigorate innovation. Peaceful mind is necessary for innovation. Something. But after listening to my previous speaker, I changed my mind. You know. So innovation for what? Either for lowering the cost and producing better qualities, thereby attracting the products, making the product very much attractive, by the consumers. If you go on like this, creating new tastes, new variety of tastes among the consumers, that is my intent. That way we develop. And we have come to this ruinous position. That's why I say we have to be a bit thoughtful. To try to have peace, mental peace, and radiate it around this. When you are really spiritually growing, you are really following the Buddha. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, sir, for gracing us with this valuable knowledge of yours. So we would like to have some other day to have some more knowledge from you. For now, we are very much glad to have you on this occasion. So for today, we will be having the next session by Dr. Naveen Sharma. So sir, could you please switch on the video mode?
কিছু নাই এখানে দেখলাম কোনটা বলছে
So our next speaker is Dr. Naveen Sharma. He is scientist innovator from life sciences, foods and agriculture. He is also a board member from Acharya Institutes and director from International Agriculture. And he will be presenting his talk on agri-innovations and technologies for a zero hunger nation. So sir, I would like you to share your presentation. Good evening, sir. Is it audible? Good evening, sir. Sir, kindly share your presentation. Sir, is it audible? Sir, is it audible?
Yeah, joining in. Hello. So good afternoon. I hope that you can hear me. Hello.
Yes, yes. You can start. Sir?
Can you hear? Hello. Okay. So let me first thanks the organizers for giving me this opportunity to present some of the very pressing needs of SDG. So my talk today is on agri innovations and technologies for zero hunger nations. Okay, so in this talk, we are going to evaluate the challenges, opportunities, and emerging technologies, which gives opportunity for agriculture to address zero hunger, which is SDG 2. Okay, so if you look at this map which I have given here, it shows you that the global human development index, which is 2021, and if you see that the India is in between, but not doing so good to not doing so good. So we are in between in the global human index development. And if you compare this, the current map here on global hunger map, India is almost like African countries. So our global hunger, we are doing far worse than other countries of the globe, and comparable only to African countries. And in another slide, I'm showing you that the impact of global hunger index. So since 2000, global hunger index scores have declined by 27%. There is improvement, but still 1 in 9 people, which are over close to 815 million worldwide, still go hungry. So this is not a good situation. And out of 119 countries, 52 countries have the global hunger, which is alarming, serious, or extremely alarming. And India is ranked 100th out of 119 countries, and it has the third highest score of all Asia. Only Afghanistan and Pakistan are ranked below India. So again, the situation is not doing that good for India as well. And India's rank in 2021 was 100 amongst the 119 countries, which is down to 45 positions since 2014, which is quite worrisome as the per capita food production has increased by 26% from 2004 to 2014, and it has doubled in the last 50 years. But still, our situation is not that good in global hunger index. So challenges India has that by 2050, India will have a population of 1.7 billion. Currently, we are 1.3 billion. So to address that, India will need to increase the cereal production by 4.2% per year. Currently, it is around 2% only, which is a huge challenge. And as the migration is happening, the demand for high value food commodities will go up by 100%. So that's another challenge for food grain production. Food grain production would need to be increased by 5.5 million ton annually, which is currently we are at 305 metric tons, which has to go up to 333 metric tons. So that's another challenge. And 52% of our population is involved in agriculture, yet contributes just 19% of India's GDP. That means agriculture is not becoming that important to our GDP, yet it engages more than 50% of the people in this sector. By 2050, India will have a challenge to diversify crops to include non-cereals to address the nutritional security part of our portfolio. There is another challenge which is climate change. There is a very good book which is called Turn Down the Heat, 4 Degree. I think people should read about this book, which talks about specifically, there is a chapter on India, which says that a 2% rise in the world average temperature will make India's summer monsoon highly unpredictable. And at 4% warming, an extremely wet monsoon that currently has a chance of occurring only once in 100 years is projected to occur every 10 years. So there will be quite uncertain weather, especially the monsoon, as India's agriculture depends on monsoon quite a lot. This is a quite worrisome change, which is likely to happen. And as the global warming will happen, the crop productivity will start going down of our major food grains. Especially this slide here, which I'm this portion which I'm showing, this is for cereals. Almost all the crops will have reduced production up to 40%, 25 to 40%. And another worrisome trend is that the yields are plateauing in the sense that despite very serious breeding efforts, the yields are not going up as it happened in the past 220 or 30 years. So that also says that we have a huge challenge for India in coming years. And with world population forecast to reach 8.3 billion people by 2030, we will need 50% more energy, 40% more water, 35% more food. So where will we get all these from? So that's another question. To address these, in 2015, the United Nations came out with 17 sustainable development goals. And out of that, the SDG 2, which is a zero hunger, and SDG 3, which is good health, and SDG 4, which is quality education, are the three components which are intertwined. And I think that's where the zero hunger becomes more important. And I will talk about zero hunger in subsequent slides as to what are the targets and what are the current thinking process on to how will we achieve it. So the challenge is that despite important progress, the current pace and scope of implementation is unlikely to promote the transformational change. So if we continue to do our business as we are doing currently, the targets of SDG 2 may not be achieved. And large segment of world's population, particularly in sub-Sahara Africa and South Asia, South Asia means including India, will remain under or malnourished by 2030 or even by 2050. So that's another big challenge for SDG 2 to achieve, although the targets are very stiff, but if we don't achieve, then there is going to be serious challenge. So to end hunger and achieve food security and improve nutrition by 2030, there are challenges and there are goals. So there is a goal that to end hunger and ensure access by all people to safe nutrition and sufficient food all year around. And all forms of malnutrition, including stunting and wasting in children under 5 years of age, and address the nutritional needs of adolescent girls, pregnant and lactating women, and other persons. Double the agricultural productivity and income of small scale food producers, and this is what is our government is trying to address, and they have a target that we will achieve this target by 2024, yes. Then ensure sustainable food production system and implement resilient agricultural practices that increase productivity and production to maintain ecosystem. Current way of agriculture, although it resulted in feeding India and world, is very, very intense agriculture, and it doesn't treat the soil as soil. In fact, it treats soil as a medium where you dump a lot of chemical fertilizers to grow your crops. I think soil degradation is going to be a big challenge, and to address that, India needs to think about some other alternative form of agriculture to see that our ecosystem services and ecosystem is not degraded. And also, by 2020, maintain genetic diversity of seeds, cultivated plants, farmed and domesticated animals. So this is already gone, and we need to check it whether we have achieved this target or not. So in coming to India now, looking at the last 2-3 years, although the COVID pandemic has resulted in severe health and economic challenges, India is the hardest hit on economic front, with the decline of GDP of minus 23.9% in 2021. Although it has improved quite substantially in last 1 year, but this was the position in 2021. Only one area that showed the resilience to this economic recession was agriculture sector. And currently also agriculture is doing pretty well compared to other sectors of Indian economy. Indian agriculture sector showed an impressive improvement of 3.6%, where all other segments were in negative. Only sector which was positive was agriculture. Not only it was positive, but it showed improvement over previous years. This performance clearly suggests that agriculture is somehow insulated from such uncertainties and brings in hope that future this sector will witness unprecedented policy, fiscal and technological incentives. Now looking at India's current agriculture, the Green Revolution, although brought in high-yielding varieties and seeds and fertilizer and increased the productivity of land considerably, but the growth in the productivity has been stagnant in recent years, resulting in significant decline in the income of farmers. There have also been negative environmental effects like depleting water table, emission of greenhouse gases, and contamination of surface and groundwater. The agriculture sector in a state of distress, which is severely affecting farmers and resulting in migration and crop changes and other areas of distress for the farmers. And also, if you look at Indian agriculture history, there are only two inflection points in Indian agriculture. One was Green Revolution, which was in late 60s and early 70s. And the second was when the BT, which is a genetically modified cotton, was introduced in India. Apart from that, the growth has been only incremental in many areas. So this is also, in my view, some area to be thinking about. So why we had only 2 inflection points so far? So currently the dissonances for Indian agriculture is essentially, you can look into the 6 areas, which is land, market linkages, positioning, climate change, and other areas. So in land, if you look at the problem for India is that we have mostly the marginal land holding. There is a widening production and disparities between irrigated and rain-fed. And mind you, our majority of agriculture is done on rain-fed areas. Degradation and depletion of natural resource base. When you come to mechanization, we have inadequate mechanization, we have labor shortage, inefficient use of inputs, nutritional security is also challenge, lack of value chains and forward business linkages. Now, currently, most of the farmers are producing crops, which they take it to mandis and sell it off there. Which is so far good, but unless it is linked with some market, high value market, the farmer's income doubling will have problems. We have expectations of innovations, which our resources are thinly spread. We have old dogmas of research and development, and I will dwell into this, that how we can overcome these old dogmas and think about the future technologies, and can we adopt those future technologies. Okay. So if you look at the evolution of agriculture, research and development, we have started to move towards GM, means genetically modified crops, but the time has come to include the systems approach, which means we have to look into the newer emerging areas of genomics, epigenetics, and signal transduction. Because so far the progress using these technologies we have made is tapering off. So we need to think about the newer approaches. And this slide gives you the 4 areas which are future for crop breeding and agricultural sciences. So next generation sequencing, we all know that today, every time we are reading a newspaper about COVID has brought in, the science to the forefront, especially to the genomic sciences. So the next generation sequencing will help agricultural crop to achieve the barriers which should result in improvement yields to overcome our problem of feeding the nation. Genetic engineering is another area, but conventional genetic engineering, there are newer areas which are appearing, which is interfering RNA, CRISPR technologies. Then there is another area called signal transduction, and the 4th area is systems biology or synthetic biology. The problem currently is the challenge of investment in new platforms and technology, and the disincentive to deploy needed significant investment. So essentially it talks about how the resources will be deployed in agriculture in these newer areas. Also, there are a problem of regulation. Although the technologies are there, but the current regulatory regime is not ready to take it forward, all the innovations which are happening around globally. This is one example of newer technique which has been used for breeding a rice variety called Samba Masuri. And this is done by a good friend of mine called Ramesh Sonti from CCMB, Hyderabad. What he did is very smartly, he put one gene only in the Samba Masuri rice and made it resistant to rice blast disease. And this innovation resulted in now around 500,000 hectares are being covered by the improved Sama Masuri rice. And also this variety was developed in only 2 to 3 years' time. The advantage which this simple technology has given is in the tune of 900 crores, which is quite impressive. So smaller innovation can, but using the advanced technologies can result in such an benefit to the farmers. Now coming to GM crops, this is like a lot of countries are now using GM crops. 67 of the world's 195 countries have adopted biotech crops. This is the fastest adopted crop technology in the world, which has seen 112-fold increase since 1996. Acreage has increased from 1.7 million hectares in 1996 to now currently 185.1 million hectares, and covers only around 12% of global cropland. In India, recently, Rubber Board has given the approval of GM rubber, which is being grown in Assam. And similarly, at the same time, Kenya approved disease-resistant cassava, which is also bred through the GMO crop. So this area is gaining popularity, and globally, world over, governments are very keen to look into this technology to feed the world. Now coming to the food crops, GM, this is the first example of GM wheat. In Argentina, has recently given permission for a GM wheat, which is called HB4. This is a drought resistant, and this results in increase in 20% yield compared to the original other varieties. Now the whole of, Argentina is one of the biggest wheat producing country and supplier to the world. So taking up such a drastic technology for its main crop is really noteworthy. And such technologies are available, and probably India will soon adopt such kind of technologies to go forward. Now coming to CRISPR-Cas9 technologies, and this thing got Nobel Prize, this particular technology got Nobel Prize in 2020. And this is a very simple technology, like, literally cut and paste using microbial enzyme system. You insert the gene of your interest, and the plants are produced which have the right traits. There are a lot of references now. If you can Google it, you will know that such kind of crop is coming virtually every 2 months. You see a new crop, new variety developed through CRISPR-Cas technology. There is one field trial which is happening in UK for brassica, which is your mustard group, to give the pungent flavor using this particular technology. So this is another area which is gaining fast momentum. Another area which I think is very close to my heart is the signal transduction. Now what happens is, in the plant, when you grow it, plant senses the signal from its external environment, including temperature, humidity, and other light, so on and so forth, and convert these external stimuli into internal messengers, which are almost like, plant hormone or plant growth regulators, and which try to modify the plant's architecture, plant's productivity, and other areas. So currently now scientists are looking into these signals to give it to the plant so that the plant can fool the environment around and produce the best. This is one example of synthetic sugar molecule which was used in wheat to enhance the grain size by a fifth. So there is a molecule called T6 trehalose 6 phosphate, which is used as a sprayer you spray it on the plant, and this results in signal cascade, and this start giving the very high yield. This is being used in some countries on a very limited scale, but it has a very good potential for a country like India also. Now, for soybean, there is a technology which is called Fortalis. This contains a second generation of plant impact patented CAT-TM technology, synthetic molecule which enhances the mobilization of calcium within plant tissues, resulting in fixation of flowers. So flower drop is a major problem in soybean crop. So it fixes the flower and thereby results in very high yield in soybean crop. Now coming to the last part of my slide is that as we talked about ecosystem services earlier, ecosystem, our current agriculture is monoculture where we only grow one crop at a time and in hundreds of hectares, hardly any tree. If you bring in tree brings in a lot of ecosystem services to the agriculture. This slide shows that how trees were systematically removed from agricultural landscape, but there is a need to bring in the trees, and this thing is called agroforestry. And I give you one example, which is, from 1990 to 2010, world production of soybean grew by 220% and production of oil palm 300%. And this is more than the increase seen in wheat production during the Green Revolution and much faster than increase in rice production at the time. And currently, Government of India rightfully has decided that they have to bring in oil palm in Indian agriculture systems, and there is an oil palm mission which is going on. So these are some of the technologies, some of the areas which we should look into to address our future needs of zero hunger targets. And I will also give you an example of this is one area where GM technology has been used to produce the vegetarian McDonald type of area, and this is only this is called plant-based meat, which has not been produced using any animal source, but using the protein extracted from plants such as soybean. And to give that meaty flavor, meaty texture, what they did is they transformed a yeast called Pichia pastoris and inserted a gene called leg hemoglobin from plant, soybean plant. And there is a company called Impossible Foods, which has got chains in America which are selling these burgers made from such technology. And worldwide, their products are available in over 30,000 restaurants and 15,000 grocery stores. Very interesting technology. So the world is moving into newer direction, newer ways of thinking, newer ways of addressing. And these people thought about it because animals do contribute very significantly to climate change. And using such technology will have a very extremely reduced carbon footprints on the environment. So thank you very much. And I have given some future reading books here. If you are interested, you can look into these books, which are very good to take you to how the emerging fields are coming up, what kind of things they can do to our agriculture system. And thank you very much for your attention, I will say.
Sir, we are glad to have you on this seminar today. So I would like to ask the audience if they have any questions, sir. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful insights. I have a small question that foods are often restricted to several ethnic groups. So, how do you think is innovation in food going to change such barriers in food? Because ethnicity of food has been trouble in various parts of the country, and it plays a major role. So, what is your views on this, sir?
So I would like to thank everyone for joining us. So we would like to have you again tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. So